Welcome to the Creativity Podcast. I'm here with Pat Reagan and Don. We're going to be talking about, Don's quite a prolific YouTuber, talks about all kinds of Raspberry Pi stuff, Raspberry Pi based tinkering for the most part, coding, and he has a lot of other interests that we'll talk about, maybe some of the stuff that he doesn't get into on YouTube that wouldn't necessarily be, I don't want to say appropriate, but just not subject appropriate. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Don, we've been talking a little bit, but how's your day going? You having a good day so far?
My day's going pretty well. As a matter of fact, right after this, I'm actually headed to vacation. So
good timing.
Yeah.
Well,
Are we allowed to ask you where you're going?
Like literally, we rented an Airbnb up north a little in Connecticut. So we're going to be hanging out taking a long weekend just to hang out by the riverside and, relax, get away from the city a little bit.
I want to tell you Connecticut's beautiful, but I think I've only driven through it. I don't think I stopped.
Now you live in New York, correct? Are you in which borough? I guess that's what they call them.
Well, I'm originally
Brooklyn,
from Brooklyn.
Okay.
So I grew up in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn. I was from Brooklyn for a very long time. Then I moved out to Long Island. Probably now, in a blink of an eye, it's like 10 years now. So I'm officially a Long Islander. So I live in Long Island now. So not too far from the city, about like an hour drive, maybe. Yeah, especially like when all the hidden gems like restaurants and food and everything, like you find like nice little niches and places. Brooklyn is a nice place to hang out in. But, I've done all that. I've been there most of my life. So I like it in Long Island now. So I got my own little land. I got my own little spot, stuff like that. And it's not as busy or loud like the city is,
Nice.
So definitely I'm more settled down now than I was like 10 years ago. And funny to say, so I saw a little TikTok video and I'm born in the 80s. And funny to say is when somebody says 1970s, I still think it's 30 years ago. But it's not.
Yeah, it's not 30 years ago,
it's
is it?
50 years
50
ago.
years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And that blows my mind on how fast time have changed, like how fast time traveled. Just because now I'm like, wait, I'm not, in the 2000s anymore.
Don, I have to, being someone who's in his getting in mid 40s here, I have to tell you that the 70s were not 50 years ago. I'm not 50 years old yet. And I was born in the 70s. You're making me 10 years older than I am, and oh my gosh, I'm.
But you think about
at the beginning of the 70s, we're more than 50 years ago, right?
Yeah. So I know. I'm almost 40, so it just blows my mind how fast.
The 90s were still 10 years ago to me, and they always will be.
90s was still 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think that's accurate. So Don, did you start? You're pretty prolific YouTuber. Did you start YouTubing when you were in Brooklyn, or did you wait till you got into a bigger place like you have now? You got a studio and stuff. You're in the basement. Is that correct? And
it's a very funny story, to say the least. Okay, so I've always tinkered. I've always loved tinkering. Now, I never grew up with money, and that means like you get what you get, and if you wanted to make something work or something, you have to figure it out. You're gonna tinker it. So back in the day, I've been overclocking computers back in the 90s. Like you have a 233 megahertz Pentium 1 and you want it to go to 266, you would change a little bit of the clock. You're overclocking just to get that little bit of speed. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we didn't have necessarily the money to buy more stuff or newer stuff. So you're always constantly pushing the envelope on every technology you got. So I grew up tinkering everything I had just to, use the very last bit of technology you can out of it, right? And that led to opening a website, Novaspirit.com, back in 2010, before YouTube was really a thing. So I had this website that I used to show off all my tinkering creations. Like I would put a graphic card, like 2010, I was putting graphic card in laptops. And that is like 10 years ago when people weren't even doing that. And that stuff was on my website. And this is when the start of YouTube was just getting popular, where Barnacules and Jay's 2 Cents was just coming into the scene. Linus Tech Tips was coming into the scene. I was watching them all the time. And I decided to shift my platform from web to, video, because I feel that videography was a better way of demonstrating some of the stuff that you were trying to do on a website. You couldn't really portray how to like clip this in, or how to do certain builds, or you try to explain something on words is different from showing them visually. So I decided to shift over to doing YouTube like end of 2015, and that's how I kind of just started. But it's been a learning curve. I mean, I was not into anything cameras. I didn't even know what a camera. I was using my cell phone and a webcam, and my cell phone to record the audio, my webcam to film my face. And one of my earlier videos, I cannot watch those. Those are cringe because they were so poor. And I was using Movie Maker from Windows to put them together. And everybody thinks you got to start with like the fancy cameras or whatever. No, you can start whatever you want. You just got to push yourself to do it. So I ended up starting to do that, and I learned about cameras. I bought my first DSLR used for like $100, learned how to use that, beat the crap out of that one, then bought another one, and then slowly I learned how to do all this lighting and audio, video, and everything. So back to your question, where was it originally started with YouTube? No, it was, I was always into this, and then I started a website and then shifted into YouTube.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it seems like that's the way things, I don't know. I'm sure you're not the only person that's kind of gone from that shift to another, but that's interesting.
I'm the IT guy that everybody comes to. So they're like, hey, can you help me fix this? And then if I need to show them certain things, it's easier to visually show them. So that just kind of clicked, like, let me just start making videos of these and document stuff that I do. And you guys know, you guys use Linux all the time, and you can't remember every single command, every single folder structure. So when I'm trying to refer back to something, I actually go back to my own videos because I created it before, and I know, like, hey, this information is still valid. That's how I'm going to finish this project off and redo it.
That's one of my
again.
favorite things about starting my blog, is that I've documented so many things that I could go look back on. And even sometimes just knowing, like I was wondering the other day, when did I buy my graphics card that's in this computer here? And I could go back, oh yeah, I bought it in 2017 or whatever. I don't know. I'm making that up. I don't know what year it was, but it's nice to be able to go back and refer to your own documentation later.
Yeah, exactly. And especially that since YouTube allows monetization, like, why not?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're not losing anything out of it. And most of the stuff that I do is just tutorials and stuff like that. And I mainly shifted into Raspberry Pi by accident.
Don, don't say just tutorials. Tutorials are the hardest thing to make, and it's the most work.
That's true.
I don't know if it's the hardest thing to make, but it is so much work laying things out step after step after step and getting it right. And you're doing fantastic work, Don. It's somebody has to do it, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you. I try to do as much as I can with the least amount of how would I would say, like, I watch a lot of videos throughout my course. I watch a lot of videos, and sometimes I can't believe how a tutorial could be 40 minutes, not even, say like 15 minutes long when it's like a 5-minute video. Yes. And I don't, as much as I want to make an 8-minute video plus, sometimes you just can't. And I don't want to flood people with nonsense to get it to that mark. And there's a lot of that on the web.
I really appreciate that. I feel like some things, like, okay, you want to do this, you try to get the tutorial, and it's like, something on Final Cut Pro or whatever, and it's really 2 minutes or 30 seconds of information, but the video is 8 minutes long. It's like, hello, just give me what I want, but I guess that's how things go.
Yeah, and in the YouTube sphere, having 8-minute video allows for multiple monetization points.
Right.
And that brings you more revenue. You almost double for the same video. So people are trying to get to 8-minute mark just so they could put multiple ads. And like I said, I really can't give you, I don't want to fluff to give you 8 minutes. So I try to make my tutorials as to the point as possible. Sometimes it does reach like 10 minutes or 12 minutes, but that's what it is. But if if I can't make it, it's going to be a 5-minute video. I have tons of 5-minute video tutorials.
That's awesome. I mean, if it needs to be longer, sure, it needs to be longer, but sometimes it doesn't. Certainly.
Yeah,
Are you doing this
in Final Cut Pro?
Yeah,
8 minutes later,
exactly.
click this button. I know it's.
Oh.
You're doing fantastic, Don. We appreciate it.
Now, do you do this full time, or you said you're an IT guy? So do you have another job too, or is this your gig?
Technically, I have three jobs. 3 or 4 jobs. You could say 3 or 4. Okay, so I am a network security engineer. So my main job is network security. I work for my company works for banks. So we set up their IPS units, firewalls, tons of security stuff, stuff like that. Stuff that I actually don't talk about on my channel because it's a sensitive topic, but it's not because, yes, it would be great. And I think I could blow up my channel by doing security stuff because there's so many people who are interested in it. And I'm very familiar with it because I do it for a living. But I don't want to mix my work into my hobby. And then my hobby feels like work. So I will sprinkle on some security stuff onto my videos, but I don't directly go for it because there's enough people out there to cover it. And to be honest, security-wise, it's not evergreen. What I mean by that is you could release something about a security bug today. Next year, it'll be irrelevant because it's been patched. So that video is never going to get views again. So I never really want to do security stuff on my channel just because it's going to feel like work. And the videos can't be evergreen. Like I could teach you how to install a firewall, but a year from now, that firewall software might not even be irrelevant. It might be another firewall software.
I do.
You know?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So my second job that I do is I worked for an IT company. Well, not an IT company. I work for property inspection company for a bank. So it's property inspection. So basically, Walmart, Lowe's, whatever, that big parking lot that you usually go to, it's not owned by Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's. It's actually owned by the bank, and they lease it out to these clients. So the bank doesn't know how the structure looks. They don't know how, if the concrete's broken, or something like that. Because if somebody trips on the walkway, they're not suing Lowe's. They're suing the bank who owns it.
That's why Walmart doesn't own the parking lot.
Yeah, they don't own the parking lot. So basically, the bank needs to know how the property looks every 4 months, every 3 months, whatever it is. So they hire these property inspectors to go out and take pictures and, document the whole thing. If the boiler is leaking, whatever, anything that needs to be done, they go out and document it for the banks. So they know like, hey, that was not there, et cetera, stuff like that. And I don't work in that portion. I do the IT portion. So I set up their servers, I set up their networking, I set up the thing from ground up. So I've been with this company since the beginning, since this company started back in 2010. And then my boss decided to kind of like downsize, but not downsize. We were nationwide, and it's a lot of work. We had a lot of employees, and being nationwide versus being tri-state, he was able to make more money by reducing. So he sold off the nationwide company to another company and then just kept the tri-state for himself. So I still work for him, but I never really go into the office. I still maintain the servers. I still do all that stuff. So that's a second job that I do. And it's really, I still get paycheck, stuff like that. It's a normal job. And then the third thing, YouTube.
Sure.
Like I do this right now, and it's a side gig. I try to record when I have free time, and usually it's either the weekend or I have a day from out of the week that I'm off, like a Wednesday or a Thursday. So I would take that day, record everything, and then the weekend I would edit it and stuff like that. So that's how come I'm only able to push out like 1, maybe 2 videos a week because it's a lot of work, especially coming up with a topic, testing the topic, filming the topic, then editing the whole thing, and trying to push that out. So that's the third job, and then the fourth job is family.
Sure.
I have my son,
Sure.
my wife, and I wouldn't say it's a job, but that's another thing that keeps me busy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I have a family myself, and that certainly keeps me busy. And then, I guess I do this for a living as far as, well, it's a weird thing because I work for myself, but I do stuff like, well, I made that macro pad that we talked about, and I mostly what I do is technical writing. So it's an interesting working for yourself, and as you do, Don, it's you're kind of saying it's kind of hard to sometimes separate your hobbies from your work, and I feel like everything I do is a little bit of both. I don't know. But I don't know. Do you ever get that? Do you ever get that sense that it's hard to get away from you doing something that's work, or you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, a lot of the times I'm in the fence of moving the studio. That's the problem. Like, because it's so easy access, I'm constantly wanting to come down here and do something and film something, and that takes away from my other responsibilities. And that becomes a problem sometimes because, like, one day I'll be like watching TV and I'm like, oh, I just thought of an idea. I got to come down here and check it out. Because the studio slash where office is so close to my grasp, it's very hard to separate this portion from, my daily life. As far as like the security job and this, no, I know to keep them separate because I don't want to really mix any of that, and I don't really like go in too deep with that stuff. But as far as like home and YouTube, that definitely mixes in sometimes.
So just physically here now, just so people understand. Now you're in the basement, correct? And you've got a closet behind you, or are you in the? You're not in the closet. You're okay.
No.
All right.
Just to show you guys, this is a boiler. Right here is the tank for the oil.
Okay.
And I have a little meter over there. But yeah, this whole thing right behind me is my tank. So it might look like I am in a closet, but I am currently not. But I'll give you a quick tour. So over here, I have a little bit of all my 3D printers are on the shelf. Then I have my SLA printers over here, the epoxy printers. And then moving around to the opposite side, I have my laundry. And then my other shelf where I do all my little projects.
Oh, wow.
With another 3D printer over there as well. And then all my basic desk where I just toss everything. The computer's desk.
Right.
Where if you got to fix a computer, that's where you go and all that stuff.
I think I saw a silver play button somewhere around there too. That's so there you go.
Silver play button.
That's good. There. Nice. So you have your office here for the YouTube stuff, and then you actually do stuff for your security job in another office, or do you? Because you were saying something.
Yes, that is another. I have 3 rooms in this house. So master bedroom, my son's bedroom, and then I have another guest bedroom that I converted into. Well, it's got a day bed in there, and then it's got a guest, and then that's where my ultra wide and my desktop and everything. That's where I really edit and do all my stuff.
Okay.
So the computer that you actually see here is actually my test computer that you usually see in all my videos.
But Don, I was going to ask you. You mentioned you got into Raspberry Pi kind of by accident. So what's the story there?
Okay, here's the thing. I originally started my channel solely for 3D printing.
Really?
Yeah, I spent $400. My wife was yelling at me at that time. Like, I spent $400, $500 on my 3D printer, which is the old Purser i3 plastic acrylic frames and stuff like that. Built that up.
My first one done was a wooden i3 clone.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Before the wooden one.
Yeah,
after the wooden one.
I wasn't an early adopter. I mean, I was early enough, but there were plastic ones available when I bought mine. It wasn't that old. I don't want to act like I've been 3D printing longer than you've done. Probably about the same.
So back in 2015, I bought my first 3D printer, and I was like, I didn't want to get into the tech scene like Barnacules or Linus Tech Tips because I don't have the surplus of motherboards and stuff to review and stuff like that. So I decided to 3D print, stuff. Just Thingiverse was just coming in. There was a lot of stuff you could do, and and 3D printing was my window to get in. So my first months, maybe 4 or 5 months of videos were just 3D printing. And that Christmas, this is 2015, that Christmas, I received my first Raspberry Pi. I got it as a present from my cousin. And I was like, this is an interesting thing. It's Linux, it's got all this stuff, whatever, etc., etc. And I proceeded to play around with it, and I really enjoyed how you could fit so much things into a Raspberry Pi, especially like server appliances. And that just clicked in my head. And then I was like, can I install Windows on this thing? That was one of my first Raspberry Pi videos.
Yep.
So what's the
Which was
answer?
installing Windows.
Yes.
Yeah. And that video blew up. And I was like, wait, there is something
Yep.
here. So since then, I started tackling Raspberry Pi tutorials and videos to learn more about it myself, as well as show people what I have done and other stuff that may not have been discovered. So my channel literally blew up because of the Raspberry Pi stuff that I've been doing. So I still tackle 3D printing. That's how come you see so many, because I do 3D printer reviews. But I'm not into like printing everything I see, like, 3D printing nerd. He prints everything. I do the reviews. I'll print some stuff out, but I'm not as into it as I am into Raspberry Pis or now homelab. Most of the stuff that I'm doing right now is more homelab.
Homelab is a great hashtag.
Shifted toward homelab hashtag. So yeah, I accidentally stumbled across it. I wasn't even thinking about doing Raspberry Pi until I got that one board,
Nice.
and now that's all I do.
So can I assume you have an Octoprint set up? I hope. Okay.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have Octoprint set up. Actually, I might. I don't know where I put it because I had to use it for a second for something.
Yeah, that's always.
It's somewhere around, but it has the new webcam on it, like the one that one of these guys.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
the high quality camera. Those are great.
Yeah, it does the time lapse for me and all that stuff. So I have Octoprint with the new lens on one of my 3D printers up on
Have
the
you
shelf.
guys seen the new Octo 4A? Octoprint for Android?
No.
It's an APK.
No.
It runs, you plug your printer into your Android phone, and it could use the webcam as your camera for the time lapses and whatnot. And it's Octoprint runs on the phone. You don't need the Pi.
Just by you saying this right now, that's probably going to be on my
Good,
video
it
like
should
in
be.
2 weeks.
It's a really neat idea. I love the idea because I have a drawer full of old Android phones here.
That's
Yeah, a tablet.
Yeah, a
Imagine
tablet.
a tablet.
And
Oh,
so
that's
many of the phones
spectacular.
have nice cameras too for the time lapses.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to hear how well, I don't want to change anything. Do I? I mean, I have this all running. I'm not gonna. But as long as it's stable, this is interesting to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I guess that's the thing too, Pat. It's like, I've got I think a Raspberry Pi 3 running on mine, and every once in a while I was like, well, maybe I should upgrade, but it works. And what am I?
Yeah,
I
it does
guess
its
it's
job.
always. Sometimes you think, well, is this the tool or is this the project? I feel like that's always. I think we've talked about that, Pat, before. It's kind of something you have to kind of like ask yourself sometimes.
I agree. No, because I have so many Raspberry Pi 4 boards, but my Octoprint is still Raspberry Pi 3. Like, it's so tuned in. I refuse to upgrade it, and it's going to stay like that for
Yeah.
quite some time.
Well, let me you guys, because I'm a bit of I'm a mechanical engineer by whatever education, so I feel like I'm kind of a I don't know. I'm always learning in this world, I guess. But if I were to pop the card out of my 3B or whatever, pop it into a 4 and put it back on my 3D printer, would it work or would there be problems?
No,
Really?
it should work.
That's amazing to me. But
Yeah, what happened is depends on when you built it. If you made that SD card when Raspberry Pi 4 was around, which now it's been a couple of years, then yes, it has the kernel inside the boot folder, and it should just work. You could just plug it in, and it's transferable. If it's before that, then you might need to download the newer kernel, like do a sudo update and stuff like that to get the newer kernels, and then you could swap it
okay,
over.
well, that's interesting. It may have actually been before that. It's been a while since I messed with it, to be totally honest. But yeah, I mean, so I guess your channel is all about Raspberry Pi, obviously. You do some 3D printing stuff, but I feel like you tend to keep it pretty focused on the technological side of things. But I did see you have a second channel, which I don't think, I don't know how much work you put into it these days or what, but there's some really neat videos on that. It looks like you guys went to Hong Kong a few years ago.
Oh yeah. So I started another channel to document our. Okay, it's like a fad. I don't know how to explain it. I was really into watching vlogging,
Yeah.
people vlogging, like their daily lives. This was a couple of years ago. So I was really big into watching other people do it. I was like, I have the equipment. I have the know-how. I know
You
how to
can do
edit.
it.
Why can't I could do it too? And I decided to start. And that was one of our vacations that we were going on. We went to Hong Kong. I have family
Okay.
there.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
from there. And
Did you grow up?
we
Because
decided to.
I feel like you sound like a New Yorker, but so you grew up in Hong Kong? Or?
I was born in Hong Kong, and then I came here when I was like
Oh, okay.
5.
All right.
I know I could speak both languages fluently. I could speak Cantonese
Oh,
fluently,
nice.
but English just because I'm so young, I could just pick it
Oh,
right
that's
up.
great. So
But
when you
yeah,
went to Hong Kong, can they tell when you speak Cantonese? Can they tell you're from America or not? You know what I'm saying?
okay. So my Chinese accent is not that bad, so it actually sounds like I'm from Hong
Okay,
Kong.
that's nice.
But you could pick up some words that I forgot because the way we speak is like backwards or forwards compared to Chinese. So when we ask a question, like Spanish, there's like sometimes the word would
Sure,
be behind a certain word. I forget that because I'm so used to
sure.
speaking English. And then I would mix that up and then they would know. But my tone and my voice sounds like I'm
Interesting.
native because I speak it with my family, I speak it with so I never really lost it. But my son, that I've been trying to teach him Chinese, you could so tell he's got an accent. He doesn't have a Chinese accent, he's got an American accent, completely different the way we sound and
I,
tone and
I
everything.
bet he speaks Cantonese better than I do. I do. Hey,
That I don't know.
I had a question about that though. There was one I was fascinated by that video, and I was seeing something. It was a temple or something like that. It had let's see, Chinese characters,
Yeah.
I guess, and then it had Spanish, and then it had
Hmm.
English, and it was, but it wasn't North American Spanish.
Yeah. Well, that building is actually in
Okay,
Macau. And Macau they have a lot of Spanish speaking people, actually
okay,
Portuguese, a lot of Portuguese speaking people. That's
That's
probably the
probably
language
why
that
it
you would
didn't
okay.
speak.
look quite Spanish to you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that's all Portuguese over
okay.
there, and they have Chinese and Portuguese, and that's why it's all native. So when you go to Macau, you'll have that language barrier. You have to take a boat to get there and stuff like that.
And it's a different ferry than the one that goes to Staten Island.
Yeah, way different. If you're gonna take the same ferry, it's gonna take you like days, maybe weeks.
Yeah. Well, that's cool though. So you did that for a while, and it looks like you haven't done a whole lot on that channel. That was kind of a
No, I tend to not have enough time to work on other channels, and that's my problem. I started another gaming channel, Linux, just for Linux
oh
gaming.
nice.
So I put up some stuff there, and I'm trying to get it working. But the lack there of time between trying to do videos for this channel, work, and other stuff, I barely have time to work on another channel, which I really do want to. So the channel that you are talking about, which is Novaspirit TV, I was gonna convert that. I actually filmed about 8 videos of working on my
Hmm,
car. So I'm a big car guy.
nice.
I built cars from the ground up. I've built engines before. I'm a big car guy, and a lot of my channel doesn't even show this. But I just bought a WRX recently, Subaru WRX, really good price, and I've been doing a lot of work to it. I
Well,
redid the exhaust, I redid the turbo, I redid the intake, did a lot of work to the car, and I've been filming the whole thing.
nice.
I'm up to like 7 or 8 videos, so I was planning to edit those videos to put on the Nova Spirit TV channel, the one that you saw, and see if I could kick that
Nice.
off.
Well, hey,
But
listen, we don't go even tell you this exactly. We just kind of got started, but usually we take a coffee break, and maybe we could come back and talk about some of the other thing, like your hobby of working on cars. Maybe talk about NFTs a little bit, racing simulators, maybe
sure.
FPV drones a little bit, depending on what we have time for. Does that sound?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
sounds
Yeah.
great.
So we'll take a little coffee break here, and we'll come back, and then we'll talk about some of this other stuff. think that'll be awesome.
Yeah,
So,
we'll see you, everybody, in
Yeah.
about
Alright.
47 seconds.
yeah, sounds good.
We'll be back. Yeah, I don't know how
47
many.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the coffee break, where Jeremy and I, we drink some coffee, and we're going to tell you our top 5 patrons on Patreon.
Our top 5 Patreons are Positive Waves, Christina Kearney, Raptor, Michael Sizer, and a brand new Patreon, Carl. So thanks so much for your support. We really appreciate it. And if somebody did want to become a Patreon, where would they go,
They
Pat?
would go to patreon.com/thecreativitypodcast with a
That's
in there. And
correct.
we'll put that on the screen so
The-
you can spell that.
Yeah, we probably will if I or Pat remember.
true.
So
And thank you, Carl. Welcome, Carl. Thank you for supporting us. We appreciate it.
for sure. Also, if you feel like giving us like a thumbs up on the YouTube channel or on whatever way you listen to this, I think that'd be awesome
Yeah,
too.
and YouTube doesn't
And
count
any-
dislikes anymore, Jeremy. So if you want to comment dislike, if you don't like it, just write it in. Just write dislike in a comment and hit submit, and we'll count those manually.
Yeah, sounds good, Pat. All right, well, we'll get you back to your previously scheduled show, or so they said on
TV. Do you remember
I guess.
TV? I remember TV.
Back in the 70s,
In the
right, Pat?
50 years ago in the 70s.